Okay, there's shoddy police work, and then there's the Stephanie Lazarus fiasco. How did it take over 2 decades to solve what should have been a cut-and-dry case? Back on February 24, 1986, John Rutan picked up his dry cleaning after work on the way to his home in Van Nuys, Los Angeles. He called his wife Sherry Rasmussen 3 or 4 times that day, but hadn't gotten an answer. This didn't concern him too much, though, since his wife, director of nursing at Glendale Adventist Medical Center, was a busy lady. Even when Rutan saw broken glass near the garage outside, he wasn't especially worried. Then he found his wife lying dead inside the house with 3 bullet wounds in her chest. It took until 2009, 23 years, to track down Rasmussen's murderer, Stephanie Lazarus.
Had you ever met his wife?
I may have.
Lazarus had been a police officer for 2 years at the time of the murder and had a sort of friends with benefits relationship with Rutan during college. It took some hard-nosed police work to bring Lazarus in, a big chunk of which depended on a 2005 DNA test comparing a bite mark on Rasmussen's arm to a Costco cup Lazarus chucked in a trash can. But other evidence had been available since 1986, leading investigators to assume that someone might have been covering up for Lazarus. But even if not, some serious bungling of evidence caused a massive delay in the case. Detective Robert Bubb, a key figure in cracking the case, told investigators to treat the investigation as confidential. Bubb collaborated with a few other higher-ups to dispatch an Internal Affairs Group Special Operations section to track Lazarus. After all, they were investigating a fellow officer for a potential murder. It was that task force that retrieved the Costco cup DNA sample from her. The sample matched. The case proceeded, and 3 years later, in 2012, Lazarus received a 27-year sentence for first-degree murder. In other words, Lazarus didn't merely fly off the handle after confronting the wife of her ex-boyfriend, but planned to murder her when she went to Rasmussen's house back in 1986. By 2009, it had already been 4 years since investigators got a DNA sample from the bite mark on Rasmussen's arms as detectives revisited the case. Prior to that, the sample had been signed out in 1993, went missing, and had stayed frozen on a cotton swab for 12 years untouched. A detective named Phil Moritz had signed it out at the time, later claiming to not remember doing so. The biggest delay in the case happened between the mysterious signing out of the DNA sample on the bite mark on her arm in 1993 and the testing of that sample in 2005. The reasons for this delay seem sort of shady, especially to Rasmussen's loved ones, and still haven't been fully explained. But because Lazarus has already been convicted, explanations for the delay took a backseat to Lazarus seeing justice. As the story goes, Phil Moritz checked out all forensic samples related to the Rasmussen case back in 1993, 7 years after the horrific events. Notably, this included a cotton swab of the bite mark on Rasmussen's arm. It took until 2001 for investigator Jennifer Francis to poke through Rasmussen's file and find the cotton swab missing. The sample showed up in the coroner's office in a freezer in a decaying manila envelope with Rasmussen's name on it, but no case number on top. Case numbers are how the police organize data, which is why it may have gone unnoticed. Again, Moritz, for his part, said he remembered nothing about the sample. From there, it took 4 years to get the results of the sample's DNA test in 2005. Long before investigator Jennifer Francis found the unnumbered DNA sample in storage that had been missing for 8 years, the victim's father suspected who killed her. Nels Rasmussen asked, quote, "Have you checked out John's ex-girlfriend, the lady cop, Delisle Mayer, a detective involved in the investigation?" This was the day after the murder in 1986.
This LAPD officer, John's ex-girlfriend, had shown up where Sherry worked.
Nels spoke with investigators at length in those early days of the investigation, but no records exist of such conversations. No notes, no audio recordings, nothing. Nels also pushed for DNA testing. In fact, the cotton swab sample that went missing until 2001, Detective Moritz checked it out shortly after Nels made the DNA test request, but before the test could be conducted. The fact that no one followed up on the request at the time, or even realized that the sample was missing, only deepens the mystery and highly suspicious set of circumstances. Come 2009, a new generation of detectives like Robert Bubb traced the entire garbled trail of happenings and potentially shady activities all the way back to the initial crime scene. They admitted that evidence pointed to Lazarus, and as soon as they got her DNA sample, the case was all but solved. So why exactly did it take so long to arrest Stephanie Lazarus? Depends on how aggressive you want to be. Simple blunder, blue shield, or plain old sloppy police work.